Well, hey there, reader friends. I'm Erica, and welcome back to my channel. And it is officially time for me to announce my Fairytaleathon TBR. Here we go. In case you didn't know, Fairytaleathon is a readathon that is going to be happening from August 13th until August 20th. So, like, in a little over a week and a day. Very, very soon it's starting. I am co-hosting along with Alex from Alex's Fiction Addiction, Sam from A Bear and a Bee Books, Jordan from The Lost Reader, and Alex from, no, I already said Alex. Who did I forget? Becky from Coffee, Cocktails, and Books. I'll leave links to all their channels down below. Make sure to go ahead and watch their TBRs and their videos as well. I'll also link my announcement video, which will have more details about the challenges as well as the prizes that you could win. So go check that out too. For Fairytaleathon, we have 7 challenges, and of course you can double up, you can adjust the readathon to make it work for you. Don't do challenges you don't want to do the challenges you do want to do. We want this to be fun. We want this to be fun. Challenge number 1 is Modern Myths. Read a fairy tale, original or a retelling, published in 2017 or 2018. Challenge number 2 is Tale as Old as Time. Reread an old favorite or read a retelling of your favorite fairy tale. Challenge number 3 is There's No Fairy Tale Without Fae. Read a book with Fae characters or in a Fae setting. This very well may be my favorite challenge of the readathon. Not gonna lie. Challenge number 4 is Out Your Own Front Door. Read a fairy tale from a heritage other than your own or featuring a heritage different than your own. Challenge number 5 is No Damsels Here. Read a fairy tale where a woman saves the day. And challenge number 6 is The Road Not Taken. Read a fairy tale, original or a retelling, that has been on your TBR for a very long time. And the final challenge for Fairytaleathon is The Merry Crew, which is to read the group book, which is Sea Witch by Sarah Henning. I'm a little ambitious this time, and by a little ambitious, I mean a lot ambitious, because there are so many amazing fairy tale books to read, and it was very, very hard for me to choose. So, altogether I have 6 books for a week of reading. That's a lot of books, guys. That's a lot of books for me. So the first book on my list is The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo, which will fulfill the challenge of Modern Myths because it was published in 2017. This book features 6 original folk/fairy tales in Bardugo's Grishaverse, which is the world she's created through her Grisha trilogy and then through the Six of Crows duology. Both take place in that universe. So these are stories that kind of build up that universe. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically this is kind of like part of the mythology of the world that she's created, and I'm really excited to get into this. Also, it has illuminations, which, like, they are so beautiful, and I just went through and like turned the pages really fast, and it was almost like there were animations as well, and I'm really excited to read this. The next book on my TBR is Tithe, a Modern Fairy Tale by Holly Black. This is one of her older series. This book was published in 2002 originally, and it follows a 16-year-old girl named Kay who travels with her mother, who's a musician, and kind of lives a nomadic existence. But circumstances mean that she has to go back to New Jersey, which is, like, I guess, her home region. And in New Jersey, there are 2 realms of fairies that are at war, and somehow Kay is tied up in that. That's really all I know. I love Holly Black. I love every book I've read by her. I've really liked a lot, loved a lot. So I'm curious to see how her earlier stuff stands up to her later stuff. Also, this book has 2 things I really love. First of all, the way they spell fairy. That is how I want everyone to spell fairy when they're talking about fairy tales. It just makes me happy inside. I don't know why. Also, I love that this book is, like, non-standard in its size. I feel like I'm the only booktuber, the only librarian, the only person that loves non-standard sized books, but I do. So 2 reasons to love this book. Tithe is going to fulfill the There's No Fairy Tale Without Fae challenge, obviously, because Holly Black is all about dark, creepy fae. This is probably the book that I am the most excited to get into because I just love Holly Black so much. Okay, guys, The next book on my TBR is the one I'm kind of the most nervous about because A, it's been hyped beyond belief, and in the past, hyped beyond belief books have done me wrong and haven't met my expectations, and because it is a middle grade text, and middle grade is the age range genre of book that I struggle with. It's not my favorite. I have to kind of force myself to read middle grade, basically, is what I'm saying. So the book is Arusha and the End of Time by Rashani Chokshi. This book follows Aru, who is a middle schooler going to private school, and she feels out of place there, and because of this, she tends to stretch things a bit, lie a bit. She's sometimes trying to twist things so that she can fit in better. So a group of her, I don't know if they're her friends or if they're just, schoolmates, try to catch her in a lie, and they meet her at where her mother works, which is the Museum of Indian Art, I think. The Museum of Ancient Indian Art, and she tells this story about what happens if you rub this lamp. And then she rubs the lamp, and I mean, look at the picture. Something happens. This is going to fulfill the challenge out your own front door. Read a fairy tale from a heritage other than your own, because this features Indian mythology and Indian folklore and fairy tales, and I am not Indian. So I'm really excited to get into this and to explore those fairy tale tropes that I am not familiar with, because Indian heritage is not my own heritage. The next book I'm going to read is a collection of very short fairy tales. It's like a more classic anthology of fairy tales, but they're modern fairy tales. And that is Don't Bet on the Prince, Contemporary Feminist Fairy Tales in North America and England. I skimmed through this. Some of the stories are very, very short, and some are a bit longer. Like I said, they're modern, so they're new fairy tales written by people that are still alive, written in the past century. This book is going to fulfill the No Damsels Here challenge, because in every single story, it's the lady character saves the day. No princes, no waiting on knights or princes. And I've read 2 stories in this anthology, and in both of them, it's a wonderful twist when, the heroine is the one who's I'm saving the day, and I'm changing, playing with fairy tale tropes all along the way, and turning everything on its head in ways that are so fun and so refreshing, and I'm really excited to explore some of the other stories in this anthology. The next book is one that is the 3rd book in a series, which I've talked about before, and that is Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is, like I said, the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles series, which will be interesting for me to read because it was a long time ago, several years ago, that I read Cinder and Scarlet. I remember the basics. I'm debating if I'm gonna try and reread those 2 this week so I can not be lost when I read Cress, but I also feel like it wasn't that in-depth of a plot line. It's not like Game of Thrones. I think I can keep it to keep myself oriented with what's happening. Cress picks up where Scarlet leaves off, which is that it follows Cress, who is an isolated person who's been living on a satellite spaceship, and she is a tech whiz and a computer whiz, and she decides to help out Cinder and Scarlet and the whole crew that we've been introduced to. One thing I really like about these books, at least the 2 that I've already read, is how Meyer ties together the previous books so that those characters are still a relevant part of the story, but this is Cress takes center stage. Obviously, since I've had this book for several years, this book is going to fulfill the Road Not Taken challenge, because I haven't gotten to it, and it has been on my TBR forever, and I own Winter as well, and I need to get to it, and this is a good opportunity to just kind of force myself to give it the attention it deserves. And the final book I'm going to be reading for Fairytaleathon is the group book, Sea Witch, which I am waiting for a copy from the library. I'm really hoping it gets here in time, because the book came out July 31st in the US, and, it takes time for books to get processed at the library, so let's keep our fingers crossed. The Sea Witch follows the Ursula character of The Little Mermaid, so it's a retelling focusing on the villain character, and what I've read about it is that it kind of focuses on her young life, before she became the Sea Witch and the world that's being built before The Little Mermaid actually happens, which I'm really interested in. I always am really intrigued by villains and how they became the way they are, so I think I'll enjoy this book quite a bit. Obviously, it's going to fulfill the Merry Crew Challenge because it is, you know, the group book, but it's also going to fulfill for me Tale as Old as Time because The Little Mermaid, I mean, The Little Mermaid is one of my favorite fairy tales of all time, if not my favorite fairy tale of all time. And I acknowledge that the Hans Christian Andersen version is extremely, like, misogynistic and problematic, but, like, I don't care. I just love mermaids, and I want them to be real, and I want to be one myself, and so let me like my fairy tale. Let me like my fairy tale. Are you participating in Fairytaleathon? I hope you join us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you do join us, make sure to share your TBR on Twitter if you have a Twitter account and tag a Fairytaleathon so we can see it, and we can watch it, and we can comment, and all of that. If you have any other things you'd like to say, feel free to leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you'd like to, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys. Are you participating in Readathon? In Readathon? Nope.